My dad was born in China. He was the second oldest of 7 siblings. He grew up in the port city of Tianjin, very close to Beijing. My dad was an excellent athlete, running track, playing soccer, and swimming. I think there was one particular event that set the stage for his future. He loved to swim, and one day he was at the beach and decided to swim out as far as he could in the port city of Tianjin. He must have been in the ocean for hours because he found himself way out in the ocean in the shipping lanes. I'm sure at this point he was very tired, realizing there was no other way out but to swim back. He said, and I know my mother has said this to me, he said, if I drown, no one will know what happened to me. Are they looking for me? Does anyone care about me, about my whereabouts? I'm sure somewhere down deep in his being, my dad found that inner courage, inner fortitude, that inner strength to make his way back. He arrived back at the beach well after dark. It was this lesson, I believe, that carried him the rest of his life. It's up to me. Never make excuses. If you get yourself into something, figure out a way to work it out. Get the job done. Don't procrastinate. Follow through. He became fearless, developed this inner courage, and would challenge himself to go above and beyond many of life's obstacles. My dad was educated by Methodist missionaries, so he had a pretty good understanding of the English language. When he joined the Chinese army, he did not pass the interpreter exam and was assigned to the horse stables. Now, I love horses, so I thought that was the greatest thing ever. But my dad said he hated it. It smelled and there were flies everywhere. So my dad did the next best thing. He deserted. In those days, in China, record keeping was not very sophisticated. So my dad went to another province, signed up, took the interpreter test, and passed. He became a captain in the Chinese army. He was sent to Burma, where he served with the U.S. Armed Forces and the Flying Tigers, who were helping the Chinese fight the Japanese. It was during this time that my dad became good friends with the American soldiers. He told me, I asked a private from how much money he made, and my dad was very motivated by money. And when he heard his response, which was much more than he was making as a captain in the Chinese army, he thought, wow, what a great country. After his service in the Chinese army from 1943 to 1945, this is during World War II, my dad settled in Hong Kong. His older brother Eugene was already in the USA and encouraged him to come over. The only way to do that at the time was to apply for a student visa. My dad ended up at Adrian College, which I think that was up here, in Adrian, Michigan. After a couple of weeks, he realized school was not for him, and he was also running out of money. He remembered his American soldier friends and tried to enlist in the U.S. Army. The woman at the recruitment center said she couldn't enlist my dad because he was not a U.S. citizen. But she said, I can draft you. And my dad said, draft me. He spent the 3 incredible years in the U.S. Army during the Korean War, serving in Germany from 1950 to 1953. He loved the U.S. Army and always said it was the best years of his life. When he came back from his tour, he was in San Francisco, and that is where he met my mom. And theirs was a love stronger than the ages. My dad insisted that my mother marry him, and she wasn't sure because she's German, and I think she thought that she was going to marry a German man. But somehow my dad, who was very persistent, encouraged my mom, and they got married in 1957. There are many stories about my dad, and it was his actions that spoke louder and set an example for me. He worked hard through the week as an import salesman. He worked late at night writing his orders. He followed through on any promise he made to you. He never used the excuse, I ran out of time. He always got the job done. My dad had fun too. He loved to travel, and when he was in the U.S. Army, he would hop aboard a cargo plane and travel to cities all over Europe. He wanted to see the world. He loved tennis and played at his private sports club in West Bloomfield, Michigan, where my brother and I were raised. And he played tennis up until his upper 80s. He was a man of routine. In Michigan, when he lived, where he lived, he was always up early, exercising, the Jack LaLanne thing. He was very much into that. Then tennis, then the library, then McDonald's for the free senior coffee. And when he arrived home, after he semi-retired, he would tinker in the garage or attend to his many plants on patio. When he moved to Brooksby Village, he was a man of routine too. He would get up every morning, go to the exercise room, then the library to read the many business journals and magazines. You could always find him reading the newspaper in one of the chairs in the town center, or in Macintosh, waiting for the mail. He was a very friendly guy and said hello to everyone. In his early days at the Brooksby, I know he gave investment advice to all the shuttle bus drivers, the staff, and anyone who would listen. He had found the secret to success, and he wanted to share it with everyone. My dad was blessed to be in the hospital and hospice for a total of 8 days. That, I think, was always his plan, to keep going until he could no longer move forward anymore. I really enjoyed visiting my parents at Brooksby Village. On my visits, I usually had to search for my dad, and I always enjoyed doing it. I could always find him in either the library reading his business journals or magazines, or I could find him in the town center reading the paper with several people around him. And sometimes, if you really could catch him, he was sitting in a quiet corner eating his beloved Hershey bars, which he loved. I was always so happy to see him. You could set your watch on where he was going and when he was going to leave. It is hard for me to walk around his familiar stomping ground now without getting really sad and missing him. This positive man who was like the Energizer Bunny. My dad never complained. He did not ask for anything and seized every moment. If things didn't work out, he just moved on. He was quick to make a decision and never procrastinated. He always said, I was a C+ student, so he knew he had to work hard to do well. He never kidded himself that he was something he was not. So he knew he had to hustle, and he always said, I'm a hustler, and I hustle. He had lots of famous phrases, which of course all the grandkids know. I'm sure my brother may, go into more of them, but it was invest, hustle, be number one. More than anything, I want to say thank you, Dad. Thank you for being the greatest father ever. You just made my life incredible, and I'm blessed. I'm blessed because I really feel like you were my identity for so long. And I'm going to really miss you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Keeping in mind that this is a celebration, 98 years, my dad. As you do, it's awesome. And thank you, Christine, for that. What I just whispered to her, she took a lot of my material. So there's going to be a little bit of redundancy here, but the great thing is that I think we listened pretty well because we got it pretty much the same. My dad had a lot of stories, so. Well, I am honored and privileged to speak to you today about my father, Benjamin T. Lai. The T stands for Tata, which is the name that he was born with and what they called him when he was growing up in mainland China. Only later did he take on the name Benjamin, or Ben, as he was mostly called. The name certainly fits him. Ben Lai, simple and straightforward. That's my name. Or so it seemed. Because the truth is, my dad really lived a remarkable life. He was born in Tianjin, China. My sister had mentioned, it's about 80 miles southeast of Beijing. He had 6 siblings, growing up, 4 brothers, 2 sisters. His father was a high-ranking government customs official, so they were fairly well off. He would tell me that they had servants. I'd be like, well, he had servants, but he'd quickly then say, well, everybody had servants. So it was no big deal to him in China. He apparently lived a fairly normal boyish life, lots of physical activity and sports, including running, soccer, and swimming. Later years would find him doing a lot of dancing. The word is that he was quite the dancer in his day, as my mom can surely attest, I'm sure. He even won some dance competitions with his sister, Shirley. After high school, he joined the Chinese Army. He wanted to become an English translator. Unfortunately, as my sister mentioned, he failed the test, his hopes were dashed, and he just left that unit. That's the way I put it. Deserted, left, he kind of left. And he joined up with another unit, and he took the test again, and voila, he passed. And he rose to the rank of captain. His unit was sent to Burma, and their mission was to support the famed Flying Tigers of the U.S. Air Force, who were there to defend China from the invading Japanese. According to my dad, his job was to translate between the Chinese forces on the ground to the U.S. pilots in the planes the exact positions where the bombs should be sent. So we kind of had a key role in that whole thing. The Flying Tigers' defense was ultimately successful. They saved China from a Japanese takeover. And today, we are told that anyone who was involved in that episode of the war is revered around China. And I'm sure my dad has very proud moments about that, as do I and my family. He was there during his deployment in Burma, where he got the bug to get to the United States, as my sister mentioned. As a captain in the Chinese Army, he made something like $50 a month. But he learned that a private in the U.S. Army was making 4 times that amount, and it was time to reevaluate. So after the Chinese Army, he went to Hong Kong and apparently lived a young bachelor life. I imagine it was a lot like being young and single in New York. But there's not a lot of data about his time in Hong Kong, but I think he had a good time. But it was from Hong Kong that my dad got to the U.S. through a student visa to go to Adrian College in Michigan. From there, he joined the U.S. Army and spent 3 years with the U.S. Special Occupation Forces in Germany. This is the early 1950s, and he became a U.S. citizen. After the Army, he went to San Francisco, where he met my mom at an international convention. She was actually on a date when he first met her, but that didn't stop him. He just joined in on the date. Apparently, my dad got the rose. The other chap was sent packing. So not long thereafter, he proposed, and my mom, being an immigrant herself from Germany, and still getting adjusted to his new country, to her new country, said, no, I have to go back to Germany. Well, my dad, in typical fashion, said, well, that's no problem. Just come back, and when you're ready, we'll get married. And that's exactly what happened. My dad had the confidence to say, sure, go ahead. When you come back, we'll get married. So then my dad was offered a sales territory with a Chinese import company named Quan. The territory covered Michigan, Ohio, and Illinois. And he took that job. They drove out to Michigan, and they got married in Detroit. And they started their life in Taylor, Michigan. My sister was born in 1958, and I came along very happily 4 years later, 1963. And when I was 6, in kindergarten, my dad moved us to Orchard Lake, Michigan, to be in a much better school district, the Bloomfield Hills School District. And not to take anything away from the other school districts around Michigan, but looking back, I have to say I'm so grateful for that decision, for the educational opportunities that were afforded to me by my parents' astute thinking at that time. In many ways, it made all the difference. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about one more huge thing in my father's history. In 1973, after Nixon opened up the U.S. relations with China, my dad went back to China to see his family. He was there about 6 weeks. And I still remember his arrival back to Detroit Metro Airport. hadn't seen my dad in, 6 weeks, and he comes back and he's tired and he's thin. But he also looked very committed. He told us right away, he said, I have to get them out of there. The conditions were bad in China. My dad had to sleep on the floor with 3 or 4 others every night. They were all in the same room, and he said food and resources were scarce. So over the next 2 to 3 years, he worked with his 2 brothers who were in the U.S., in California, and they obtained the necessary visas and sponsorships to get their remaining siblings, kids, relatives out of China into California. So utilizing all means necessary, they ultimately brought 15 people to California from mainland China. Those 15 have grown to more than 60 people now, each a contributing member of the community, many with their own successful import businesses, just like my dad. And my dad himself created his own successful import business. He represented about 10 different Chinese manufacturers. There's no doubt about it. He achieved his success through hard work. He hustled, in his own words. He went out and got the orders from every gift store, large and small, guaranteeing that the products he sold them would sell. And if they didn't sell, he'd buy them back. That was his kind of secret ticket. He would say, no problem, I'll just buy them back. My dad knew which products were the best sellers, and he steered his clients in those right directions, often setting up the proper displays in the stores. He did very well for himself, and his success allowed him to save and to invest in real estate and in mutual funds. And oh my goodness, how he loved his mutual funds. He would research all the best ones, countless hours, and then he'd make sure he was in the right funds at the right time. And I would say, for the most part, he always was in the right funds. So my dad kept working into his 80s, and he even enjoyed working at flea markets to sell his odds and ends. He was tireless, really, but you could really see how much he loved being out there selling and interacting with his customers. So that's kind of a snapshot of my dad's life and career. It's important for me, and I think my sister, to express that to you all, because it is truly a life well lived, and he achieved great success. It's a celebration. Okay, but here's the thing for me. I am so proud of my dad, about who he was as a person and how he lived his life. I am grateful and happy that there are pieces of my dad that live on in me. I know it, I can feel it. And it feels really good. His traits, his characteristics, and his personal beliefs are with me every day. He's with me every day. That gives me great comfort. As Reverend Mark has talked, my dad was not a really religious man, but he seemed to live by a set of philosophies more than anything else. The ones that come to mind: work hard, be kind, be independent, self-sustaining, strive to be your best, be helpful, and be generous. I truly love each and every one of those philosophies, and I can feel them in me. My dad loved to play tennis. In his 40s, his 50s, his 60s, his 70s, and even into his 80s. He would play with anyone and everyone. In the spring, summer, and fall, he could be found at the West Bloomfield tennis courts, always angling for a game. In the winter, it was at the Centaur Racket Club in southeastern Michigan. Again, always ask around, who wants to play? And whenever I would come home from college, or holidays after I began working, invariably we would go out and play a couple of sets. And he was good. He was sneaky good. He had a lot of spins, a lot of quick shots. You had to be ready. There was also a bad call here or there, but I'm sure that was okay. I always remember, though, always had to be ready with my dad, because the ball was coming quick. And no time for warm-ups. It was, let's play. Well, for me, my love for many years has been playing basketball. I try to play every Sunday morning, sometimes Wednesdays, Fridays. I'm kind of the same way. I like, who wants to play? I really enjoy it, and I find it's like a therapy for me. And when I look back on how much my dad enjoyed playing tennis, I can't help but feel the same draw, but for me it's basketball. And again, it feels good to have that. My dad was also known for being thrifty, always looking for the cheapest gas, buying things on sale, in bulk. You don't really need it, but how can you pass up such a great deal? Costco, Dollar Store were two of his biggest haunts. I'm guilty. But you know what? That feels good too, because again, he's with me. And my dad would often say, I never worked for anybody. I've always been my own boss. I'm self-employed. Well, that draw seemed to hit me pretty hard about 25 years ago. And although there were some times that there were difficult times, I just felt in my bones that corporate America was not for me. Unfortunately for me, I married the right girl, and together we've created some very successful businesses, and I believe my dad played a part in guiding me to that path. He's with me. And finally, one of the things my dad would often say is, I'm a soft-spoken guy. I don't say much. Well, that's true and not true at the same time. It's true he wasn't an overly talkative guy. I think he enjoyed the peace and quiet. Me too. But as the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu said, silence is a source of great strength. When my dad did speak, his words were often profound and powerful. For our family, some of his most frequent sayings will always carry a lot of meaning, and they will always be with us. Number one, invest. Always produce. And in my favor, it's no problem. There's one more. And because he's a part of me, and I know we want me to tell you this,